I used to work night security at a private hospital outside the city. It wasn't some abandoned, creepy place either. During the day it was packed with families, nurses, interns, kids crying, wheelchairs moving around constantly. But after midnight the entire building changed. The halls felt longer. The lights seemed dimmer. Even the air smelled different, like disinfectant mixed with something old and damp. My shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6 in the morning. Usually it was boring. I'd sit in the security room watching cameras while drinking machine coffee that tasted burnt every single night. The third floor was always empty because they were renovating it. Half the lights didn't work up there, and plastic sheets covered unfinished walls. I hated going up there alone because every sound echoed. Even your own footsteps came back delayed. Around 2:13 a.m. one night, the desk phone rang. I still remember the exact time because I looked at the clock twice after the call. The voice on the other end was a woman whispering, "Security, someone's walking on the third floor." I sat upright instantly. "Ma'am, the floor is closed." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I'm calling." Then she hung up. The weird part was the call didn't come from a patient room. It came from the old nurse station on the third floor. A station disconnected for months. My stomach dropped hard when I saw that on the screen. I tried telling myself another guard was messing with me, but the longer I stared at the monitor, the more wrong I felt. That heavy feeling in your chest where your instincts are screaming before your brain catches up. I switched cameras. At first everything looked empty. Plastic sheets hanging still. Dark hallway. Broken lights flickering. Then movement. At the very end of the corridor, someone crossed the hallway. Not running. Not sneaking. Just walking slowly. I froze. The figure disappeared behind a wall. I grabbed my flashlight and radio even though my hands already felt shaky. I remember my mouth going dry walking toward the elevator. The entire ride up I kept hearing my heartbeat louder than the elevator motor. When the doors opened, the floor was silent. Completely silent. No construction noises. No footsteps. Nothing. My flashlight beam moved across the hallway while plastic curtains shifted slightly from the AC. Every tiny sound made the hair on my neck rise. I kept getting this horrible feeling someone was standing just outside the flashlight beam watching me. I checked every room. Nothing. Then I heard it. A soft squeaking sound. Like rubber soles on polished floor. Farther down the hall. I called out, "Security!" No response. The sound stopped. I walked toward it slowly and noticed one of the unfinished patient room doors slightly open. The darkness inside looked thicker somehow. My chest felt unbelievably tight at that point. I pushed the door wider. Empty room. But there was something wet on the floor. Fresh footprints. Bare footprints. Leading back out into the hallway. I stared at them for maybe 3 seconds before realizing something that made my entire body go cold. The prints weren't going away from me. They were coming toward me. I backed out instantly and nearly slipped. My breathing got shallow. I kept sweeping the flashlight around because suddenly I felt completely exposed. Then over my radio, static exploded loudly. And through the static I heard breathing. Slow breathing. Right next to the microphone. I yelled into it asking who was there, but nobody answered. Then behind me, a door slammed. I spun around so fast my flashlight almost flew from my hand. At the end of the hallway stood a man in hospital clothes. Tall. Thin. Completely still. I couldn't see his face properly because the hallway lights behind him flickered constantly. For a second neither of us moved. Then he started walking toward me. Not fast. Just slow, deliberate steps. Something about the way he moved made my stomach twist. His arms hung strangely loose like he was exhausted or injured. I backed up immediately asking if he needed help, but he never answered. The closer he got, the more wrong he looked. His hospital gown was stained dark near the stomach. And his eyes, I swear they looked half open. Not focused. Like he wasn't fully awake. I turned and rushed back toward the elevator because every survival instinct in my body kicked in at once. I could hear footsteps behind me the entire time. Not running. Walking. Steady. I hit the elevator button repeatedly. My chest felt so tight I thought I might pass out. The footsteps kept getting closer. 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 Then suddenly they stopped. The elevator opened. I jumped inside and hit close immediately. Right before the doors shut completely, I looked up. The hallway was empty. Completely empty. No man. No movement. Nothing. I barely slept after that shift. The next evening I asked one of the older nurses if anyone had died on the 3rd floor before renovation started. She went quiet immediately. Then she said something I still think about constantly. A patient wandered out during the night last winter. Massive internal bleeding. They found him collapsed near the elevators. Then she looked directly at me. He kept asking security for help before he died. I worked overnight maintenance for the subway system for almost 2 years. Most people think train tunnels are loud all the time, but after service ends around 1 a.m., it becomes terrifyingly quiet down there. The silence underground feels wrong. You hear water dripping from pipes, electrical humming inside walls, metal creaking somewhere far away. Every sound travels forever through those tunnels. That night started normal. My partner Luis called in sick, so I got assigned alone to inspect Track 4 near an unused platform that had been shut down since the 90s. Nobody liked going there. Not because of ghost stories or anything stupid like that. Because homeless people sometimes got inside. Or addicts. At around 3 a.m. I was walking the tracks checking electrical boxes when I noticed fresh footprints in the dust beside the rails. Barefoot. That immediately put me on edge. The station had been sealed for years. I radioed dispatch asking if police had cleared the area recently. They said no. The farther I walked, the heavier my chest felt. My flashlight kept shaking slightly because my hands wouldn't stop sweating. Then I saw a backpack sitting against the wall. Old. Dirty. Half open. I crouched beside it and saw clothes stuffed inside along with unopened food wrappers. Someone had definitely been living down there recently. That's when I heard coughing. Close. Way too close. The sound echoed through the tunnel, making it impossible to tell where it came from. I stood up instantly and turned my flashlight toward the darkness ahead. Nothing. Then another cough behind me. I spun around. Still nothing. I called out saying maintenance was working and police were on the way even though they weren't. No answer. But I started hearing footsteps. Soft footsteps, moving slowly somewhere beyond the flashlight range. The tunnel suddenly felt unbelievably small. You have to understand, underground tunnels mess with your brain. There's no wind. No outside noise. Just endless darkness around a tiny beam of light. I started walking back toward the platform faster. Then the station lights shut off. Complete darkness swallowed everything. For 1 second I couldn't even breathe. Then my emergency flashlight kicked on. Weak yellow light. Barely enough to see. That's when I noticed someone standing across the tracks. A man. Thin. Dirty hoodie. Watching me silently. I yelled at him asking if he needed medical help. No response. He just stood there. Then slowly, he stepped down onto the tracks. My stomach dropped instantly because no trains should have been running. But suddenly I heard it. Distant rumbling. A train. Coming fast. I screamed at him to move, but he kept walking toward me across the tracks like he either couldn't hear me or didn't care. The rumbling got louder. The rails started vibrating beneath my boots. And the guy kept coming. I backed away, feeling absolute panic rising in my throat. The emergency light barely lit his face, but I could finally see enough to know something was deeply wrong. His nose was bleeding. His eyes looked swollen shut. And he was limping badly. The train lights appeared deep in the tunnel behind him. I started yelling again. The guy suddenly broke into a sprint directly toward me. Not normal running either. Wild, desperate running. I turned and ran instantly. My boots slammed against concrete, while the train roared louder behind me. I could hear the man screaming now, but the sound blended with the train until everything became noise. I climbed onto the platform right as the train exploded past. The force of wind nearly knocked me sideways. I looked back expecting to see the guy crushed. But there was nobody on the tracks. Nobody behind me. Nothing. The train never even slowed down. I reported everything after my shift. During college, I worked overnight reception at a highway hotel outside Phoenix. It was one of those cheap places travelers stayed in for one night before continuing their drive. Night shifts there always felt strange. People checked in exhausted. Couples argued quietly in parking lots. Truckers wandered in at 3 a.m. looking half asleep. You learned quickly that nighttime versions of people felt different. One stormy night around 1:40 a.m., a man checked in carrying almost nothing besides a duffel bag. Mid-40s. Tired eyes. Very polite. But something about him immediately made me uneasy. Not dangerous exactly. Just nervous. Like he expected someone to walk through the front doors at any moment. He kept asking strange questions. Do the fire exits alarm? Can people enter from outside? Do cameras cover every hallway? I laughed awkwardly, saying yes, mostly. That word seemed to bother him. Mostly. He kept glancing outside while signing papers. His hands were shaking slightly. I gave him room 214 upstairs. About 20 minutes later he came back downstairs looking pale. He leaned toward me and quietly asked if anyone else had asked for him. I said no. Then he asked something that made the hair rise on my arms. Did you see anybody standing near the rear exit? I told him nobody had come inside. He stared at me for a second too long before going back upstairs. By 3 a.m. rain hammered the windows so hard it sounded like static across the roof. I was alone at the desk watching old sitcom reruns quietly when the security monitor flickered. Rear exit camera. A man standing outside the door. Tall. Wearing a dark raincoat. Completely motionless. My stomach tightened instantly. The weirdest part? The man wasn't trying to enter. He was just standing there staring directly into the camera. I zoomed in slightly. His face looked bruised. Wet hair hanging over one eye. Then suddenly the screen went black. At the exact same moment the lobby lights flickered once. Hard. I grabbed the flashlight under the desk because every instinct in my body started screaming. That heavy pressure settled into my chest where you know something bad is about to happen. Then room 214 called. I answered immediately. All I heard was breathing. Fast breathing. Then whispering. He's here. The line disconnected. I ran upstairs faster than I should have. The hallway felt freezing cold compared to downstairs. Halfway there I noticed the fire exit door at the end of the hall slightly open. Rain blew inside across the carpet. My pulse started hammering. I knocked on 214. No answer. Knocked again harder. Still nothing. Then behind me. The fire exit door slammed shut violently. I spun around so fast my neck hurt. Standing near the exit was the man from outside. Raincoat soaked. Face bruised badly. He stared at me without blinking. I remember every tiny detail because fear burned it permanently into my brain. The dripping water. The buzzing hallway lights. My own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I asked if he was staying at the hotel. He ignored the question completely. Then he said quietly, "Did he tell you what he did?" Before I could answer, room 214 suddenly opened behind me. The guest stepped out looking terrified. The second he saw the man near the exit, all color drained from his face. And then both men started yelling at once. Not fighting. Accusing. Apparently they'd been business partners years earlier. One stole money and disappeared. The other spent years trying to find him. The bruised man had tracked him there after spotting his car. Police arrived eventually. Turns out neither of them were dangerous killers or criminals like my imagination convinced me. But honestly, that almost made it scarier.